All right, well, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. I know it's the last session. You've probably been to several of them today. Some really fantastic things that are happening. And what a great opportunity for all of us to come together digitally to explore this crazy world that we are in right now. We call this the unknowable now. A little bit of who you're talking to. If you're not familiar with us, Archrival is a youth culture agency. Our whole premise is that we reinvent how brands win the hearts and minds of young adults. Our focus is on teens to 20 somethings. I always like to say we have two different types of clients. We have these super cool clients like Red Bull and Adidas and Hollister and Spotify, brands that for the most part people know, many people love. But our job is to help them as business partners to manage the ongoing change. Generations change, cultural events change the way we do consumerism, and we are partners there to see them through the way. We have a second type of client. It's usually not somebody who's quite on the edge of culture, but really does want to be attractive for young adults. And so with them, we help build programs to build love, loyalty, and sales. And you see some of the services we do there. Consumer insights, that's a lot of what I'm going to give you guys today. Some of that insights we lead into building actual robust field marketing programs through a Gen Z lens. And then there's lots of creative activations, whether that happens online or IRL that we do as well. So it's a little bit about us. My name is Clint Runge. I'm the managing director and founder of Archrival. So excited to share some of the things that we've been working on the last couple of weeks. Of course, just like you, every business, including ours, has been turned upside down. We thought the way that we can contribute to this is to take our we call it Almanac. It's our public available insight that reads the pulse of youth culture. We went and did a really big, the insights team did a really big research dive the last 2 weeks to pull up, how is this changing their world? How will this affect young adult relationships? How will it affect how they buy, how they have relationships with brands? And we put all that into what we call the unknowable now. You can actually download a copy of this. I'm gonna walk you through kind of high level, but later, feel free to go download a PDF of this off our website. It has a lot more information than I'm gonna give you today because we have just about 25 minutes. Speaking of how I'm gonna divide the time is I'm gonna spend about 15 minutes walking through these really big themes that we're seeing. And then I will take those themes and translate that into how we're working with some of our partners and how you might also be able to leverage these themes with your associates and your employee base. All right, so we'll spend our last 10 minutes doing that. All right, well, I hope you're ready for a ride. We are building the airplane, we're flying the airplanes, we're building it like you. So let's dig in and get to this. All right, so, these terms, quarantine, isolation, social distancing, for all of us, these were terms that we had not been thinking about just a few weeks ago. Now imagine that you are coming of age, a young adult. You're in high school, you're in college, you've just graduated and you're entering the workforce. Imagine these influential moments and that something like this hits. It really will shape the psyches and lives of young adults. If you even think about how back to your times at the moments that shaped you, they're probably the same sort of time period. And now it's been completely disrupted. And there's a few really big themes that we're pulling out that we want to share with you about this. The first theme is what we're calling dreams disrupted. These milestone moments, proms, graduations, internships, these are all things that they were so looking forward to, and then suddenly they've been canceled or indefinitely postponed. And there's this feeling of, I think my life was robbed. One high schooler, this is a quote from the told us, after going to school for 12 and a half years, the thought of graduation is what kept me going. And now suddenly that's been ripped out from underneath them. You can imagine the sense of loss that happens with that. Life was normal, and then suddenly it wasn't, and they have what we're calling a life whiplash. Suddenly their whole life is going a different direction. They're responding pretty interestingly to it, right? They're doing these fomencements where students are wearing homemade trash bags, gowns, or calling their own names up and giving themselves flowers or frisbees as diplomas. There's really some interesting things of how they're responding to all that. I should say that these complaints that they're missing these big moments, this generation's pretty global. They understand it. They get that in the scheme of things, this is small compared to some of the global, the deaths and the rate of which people are being infected. They understand this is small in the moment, but for them, these really special moments have been removed. And a few points around this. One, there's this, we call this looming crisis. we've been tracking this for a while, but this entire generation, because of the proliferation of media, I've always felt like there's a looming crisis. Your generation's is going to be faced with the implications of a World War III. Your generation is going to have to deal with climate change or the national debt that's building. Like, all of these things are building for them, and they've always felt the sense that we are a generation that has to deal with it. And they're wondering, am I always going to be dealing with stuff? Do I, right now I have to feel the weight of the world that I might be a carrier of a disease or a virus that could kill my grandparents. Like, that's a heavy weight for someone to feel. So, they feel like they're jumping from one crisis to another. They might be doing that their entire life. The second point to make is this idea of seeking stability. And this is something where brands can really play a big role, you even as retailers. That as we go through this and come out of this, because my life is upside down, if I could just land somewhere and put my own 2 feet on the ground, like, that would be great. I want a sense of comfort and safety, and the goods and services that you offer coming out of this may be different than what you went into it. But if you can focus on that comfort and safety, we think that that's where we're hearing Gen Z say they will really respond well to. Last point on this is, because of the disruption of everything, look, there's we're all conserving money, right? We're all trying to figure out how to do this. This was already a fiscally minded generation coming into this, and we think that their propensity to research value on large purchases is going to extend even further. There's probably no surprise there. A little bit later, I'm going to tell you that actually on the impulse buys, we think those are going to pick up, but on the larger purchases, we're still seeing there's probably a lot deeper research inside your stores for those larger purchases. The second theme I want to tell you about is this asterisk generation. I'll just jump to should I jump to the Q&A? Yeah, okay. We're being trolled by bots, no big deal. And the asterisk generation is that Z's are keeping busy, but there's this underlying fear that all of this is going to have a deeper lasting impact to them than it will to you or I, or to other generations. They feel like, because it's such a milestone moment for them, they are going to be hit the hardest. And they're wondering, is there always going to be an asterisk next to my to me? I've been building this life resume. I've been working so hard to get all this extra tutoring and training, and I've been doing all the work to get the extra credit, and suddenly now I'm mortified at the prospect of not being able to keep up with competitive standards. Look, ACT and SAT tests are being canceled nationwide. Study abroad programs are being closed. They're looking forward to the acceptance days of going to college and taking the tours and being accepted. Like, all that's being canceled. These thrown together circumstances are messier than what they're used to, and they're just saying, are we going to be overlooked because of that? I think it's a pretty fair question. A few points on that. Because there's been such a quick shift to online education, excuse me, they're actually complaining about this last semester. They're saying, this isn't as high quality of education as I was used to receiving. And of course, you've got boomer professors who are now trying to figure out Zoom like this. They're wondering if this pandemic is really going to have an effect on their ability to learn. Everyone seems to be slow at replying to them, and they're just not used to other generations who are in charge of their education moving at the speed of which they move, and now they're starting to feel the effects of that. Second one is the area where we actually see a really great resilience is happening is in sports. Athletes have always been trying to get to that next level. That's sort of always been a mantra of theirs. If you've heard my State of Youth Culture talk, you'll know I speak quite a bit about this idea that if I can achieve at the highest levels, that's one of the most meaningful things for my success metrics. It's actually in my DNA that I want to have the most achievement possible. And where we still see that coming to fruition is in sports. So they're actually keeping up sport training, even though a lot of the gyms are closing. Some of the places, EM Academy, which is like a institution that you can pay a lot of money to and go train as an athlete, they stayed open as long as they could. IMG actually Academy is still open. It's just an area we're seeing young adults fight back the most. And the third point is this gap widening that's happening. In my other talk, the State of Youth Culture, I talk a lot about the tech gap. That's really more than anything is what's widening the difference between those who have access to Wi-Fi and computers, laptops, and even and phones, to those that don't. That gap is going to decide who gets educated, who doesn't, more than anything else. And so this actually, what we're seeing is this actually is going to widen that even further, this virus. So, it's why the public schools in New York, California fought for so long to stay open, is that they know that this gap is not going to widen anymore for them. For a lot of young adults, particularly low-income students, school was their rock, and in many, this was their only escape to be normal. I think brands have a lot of opportunity to work with schooling there. The third theme to talk about before we get into our utilizing associates is creative persistence. This generation, very seasoned entrepreneurs, they coming into this, they were already the artists, they were their producers and their promoters. Like they're all three simultaneously, and they never needed the gatekeepers in life. They wanted to create a hit record, they could do that, great song. If they wanted to come up with a new fashion line, you know this, they could just come up with it. They didn't need the people at the very top or the gatekeepers like they used to, like as we did as other generations. So they've had this real creative entrepreneurism coming into it. And now that this is in front of them, there's a creative vengeance that's being fought with this. And so this creative fight is having, it's facing some really creative minds. I think when it first started for young adults, they sort of thought like there was this attitude that every day is Sunday. And that's really shifted now to being, how do I become a productive powerhouse? I mean, I'm sure all of you are seeing what's happening on social, right? So there's an explosion of new music. You should go Google Rona Raps if you haven't. 17-year-old builds a website that scrapes the web to accurately report on the pandemic. We have 2 Yale computer science majors building a platform called Love Over Zoom that matches students together. They're creating fashion masks. There's 3D printing of face shields for local responders. There's so many things that young adults are finding how to use their creative spirit in this pandemic. It's actually it's pretty amazing and inspiring of itself. Compare this to China, by the way, that in their lockdown, the search term on Weibo, the term boring, grew by 600%. You don't see that happening here in the US. You see a different reaction to that. Bless the break. So during this moment, we're also hearing as Gen Z say, actually, while all these things are really bad, there's a little bit where I'm like, I kind of like the break where I can just finally invest, like all these things that I know I need to do, can finally invest in my own bodies, my personal achievement, career pursuits. The word we're hearing a lot is the term reset. So maybe you can use that as retailers. How can you help them reset? They're taking classes from some of the Ivy League schools on well-being and happiness, gamification. So we're seeing a lot happen in this break time that they're going to use it very purposefully. And I think you should as well. Money streams is that now that this gig economy is drying up, at least for the short term, they're saying, well, how can I create my new paying ventures? So they're using their creativity to find new ways. So Instagram models are going behind a paywall to see it, to see their photos. They're finally taking this time to invest through Acorns and Robinhood. Now that the financial sector is more open to them, the barriers have been removed, they can actually invest their money there. So we're seeing a lot in this creative resistance. Fourth one is together alone. Before the coronavirus hit, there was a belief among some that technology was Gen Z's life force. Like this mattered more than anything else. We're always connected to our phones. Like this was an attitude that I think some people bought really heavily into, and there's good reason for that. This generation can almost feel that they're happy to be antisocial. We thought, oh, well, they're in less relationships, they're having less sex, they're doing less drugs, they're drinking less, there's less. It's been down more than has been in decades. But what we're finding now in this sort of great social experiment we call coronavirus is that Gen Z can't live on a diet of digital alone. What they're telling you is actually what they're learning is that digital is best served with a counterbalance supplement of IRL connection. And this quote says it pretty well. I usually am the type of person to be alone for long periods of time, but this pandemic has been stretching my limits. I need to connect with people. If you're feeling that, just imagine an entire generation who's at a social time in their life where they need their friends and they need those connections, and they're realizing this is more important to them now than ever. Now they're trying. We've seen a ton happen in community experiences, large group experiences on social. Everyone's driving to Twitch. We had someone give us a nice quote. There's just knowing that someone is out there also watching the same thing helps me feel better about myself. They're circling up on House Party app. That's like a group video chat. It was downloaded I think 2 million times last week alone. So we might check that out, House Party app. So they're finding these moments to connect like that. They're dancing. I'm sure you've seen all the awesome DJ sets happening on Instagram or TikTok. Like they're dancing along to these DJ sets. So they're trying, but what they're telling us is that it's not enough and it's not fully satiating them. And so they're having these workarounds. They're pretty creative solutions. We've heard of some who are going into fast food parking lots and they're doing parking lot meetups where everybody sort of parks next to each other. By the way, could they do that in your parking lot if you're a retailer? You know, what if you have a, say you're Dick's Sporting Goods or something, you've shut your door and you have all this parking lot. Can you recreate that to be parking lot meetups? Could be kind of interesting. In Upper New York, teens are doing birthday parties by doing drive-by honkings. There, even locally here, there's an indoor skate park called the Bay that went around neighborhood to neighborhood and took a mini mobile skate park and took it to different neighborhoods. And if you were quarantined together as a group, if you're with you and your siblings, you could go come skate for an hour. They would disinfect it and then let another group sign up and go skate. So you couldn't do it in large groups, but they found a way to take their skate park to different neighborhoods. I don't know if it's actually legal or not in this world, but you know, we're kind of this time where all experiments are on the table, and we hope that'll be true for you as well. Then last one is this together in the after. There's a greater now appreciation for physical togetherness. We see it happening now. We think that actually will last. There's a lot of predictions, right? And I'm sure if you're in the insights world, you're reading quite a bit where some think that, well, now will be a more fearful anti-touch society. That might be true for some generations, especially the older you get, where the death rate is much higher. But we think for younger generations, we actually think it's just going to make being together feel more special. They won't take it for granted as much. They'll make more of those moments. Even in retail, what they're telling us is they can't wait to be inside a store where there's someone there to actually help them. I think there's, again, that safety and comfort and knowing that someone is looking out for you is something that they're looking for. There could even be this post-virus like intimacy revolution, right? Where maybe, you know, we're seeing young adults have less and less sex. We might actually see that reverse. And then lastly, I would say that even for retailers, there's gonna be a live in the moment attitude. I don't know if it'll be short or long term, but certainly they're going to be willing to ask the girl out. They're going to buy the dress that they've always wanted. They're just going to be less risk averse. And I think that's why impulse purchases are going to go up in the short term. And sort of this like live in the moment. You never know when it could be your last. And we've just heard so much of that. The last one I want to tell you about, and this may be the most important one for us and the retailers we work with, is that faces are the logos. So before this, you know, logos and brand control haven't mattered in a while. And at least to young adults. And what I mean by that is, if you think you have like rigid, tight brand control over your identity, then you have not adapted to the world where the customers actually are the ones to control. You help navigate it, you help guide it, you pull the strings, but it's your consumers who actually control your identity. But now what we're seeing, and so loyalty had changed, and you know, where I as a Gen Xer I am loyal to logos. I will buy from a company. It doesn't matter what they do in the world. I'll probably continue to buy from them. But you know, for young adults, they're not loyal to logos. They're actually loyal to the creativity and innovation of brands. And now I would add that they're loyal to the people who are behind innovation and creativity of the brand. So this is your CEO, your chief of product development, the person who runs your Twitter account, the influencers you choose to represent you. Put them forward as your marketing. Those are the ones that actually people are responding to. Couple notes, brand empathy. It's crazy. Like a few weeks ago, I just did a talk where to a company that's being beat down quite a bit by young adults, and the reason is they had made mistakes, and young adults have no problem being citizen journalists, calling them out. And in a way, it's almost vindictive. They don't want to call you out; they want to take you down. And in just a short few weeks, I think Z's and young adults are realizing the power of the economy and that they need it too. And so they're now rooting for businesses to win, where before there was an attitude of like us against the controlled society of business. Now it's like, we want them to win, even the big ones, and they're rooting for them. A good quote, I love that DoorDash has waived its delivery fee in an effort to keep kitchens open. Well, a few weeks ago, they would trash DoorDash for a lot of reasons. The Z's are making personal sacrifices, and they want to see that businesses are doing the same. So they want to have that empathy for you. All right. Where you will get torn apart is if you don't treat your people well. People are the logos. So, and people are the marketing. So if you don't treat your employees well, if you're not being conscious of their health in this time, you're gonna get taken down. You have to look after your employees. These are taking note. I just read, I think it was this morning, that 500 ASOS workers walked out of a factory after the company failed to enforce social distancing. Like there's a lot going on there. And that kind of leads to this third point of decisions, which is the decisions you are making at every level of retail. This is from the CEO all the way down to the decisions in your local doors. That's going to be the lasting impression for Z's. So, should you deem yourself essential? GameStop got, killed because they were trying to fight that they were an essential business. I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but I can tell you young adults kind of felt strongly against that. They're calling out the airlines and hotels and tourism companies for still marketing fun spring getaways. It's like, don't be tone deaf, read the room, and know this is a time where you're gonna have to take the hit, but if you do this smart, you can come back real strong with them on your side. So, just think about what it is you can do. And there's all sorts of approaches to that. Walmart has an hour where only the elderly are allowed to be inside their stores. Why all of you, if you're in the retail business, why all of you aren't making masks for responders or extra clothes for those who are working long hours? You have the ability to do that. I mean, heck, even McDonald's scored a lot of points by giving healthcare workers free coffee. Like, it can be small wins that can go a long way. All right, so summarizing this quote, once this is all over, people are going to support the brands who were there when the world was at its lowest. So, all right, where does all this lead then for you as a retailer? The things that I just went through are applicable to any business and brand, and you should, no matter what industry you're from, if you're listening to this talk, you can use these insights to better inform a plan of action in this Unknowable Now. But I want to give you some specific things that we're working with our brands to help them get through this. I'm sure all of you know, 3.3 million Americans just filed for unemployment last week. A few months ago, we were at near record lows, and now we're going to be close probably to 20% unemployment by the time it's all over. And we know that that food service and retailers like yourself are the hardest hit. So many of you have, maybe your company's out of your control, maybe have let people go. Maybe you've put them on furlough or unpaid leave. And what we want to suggest to you is that if you have employees sitting at home, what can you do with them? And I can tell you, it can be extremely valuable to you in this time of need. And these are the things that we're working with our partner retailers to do. A few things to tell you about. One is humanize your brand. So as you just heard, is there a way for you to do this? Look, all these people out there, they're involved in youth culture. They understand what's going on in social, maybe better than you in the marketing teams or in your product teams or distribution teams. So use them to bubble up insights. So maybe connect with them and say, hey, can we find by the way, we have a platform at Archrival. If you want to use it, you can use it, where you can get on and basically use this to have all your people input all the data and insights that you can pull it up and see the themes of how it could affect your brand. So if you're not sure what to do, ask all your employees. Put people in the communications. So I know you probably spent a lot of money on luxurious photo shoots and models, and that time was already kind of coming to an end. Actually, what we're seeing with our retail brands we work with is that the more that you use your people, your real people, your retailers, or if you have brand ambassadors like what we do, you'll see a lot more. What we're actually seeing is you'll see the engagement rate be much higher than what you actually have in curated content. So can you ask all your associates who are sitting at home, help us craft this next level of marketing messages for us, and can they actually be in the photo shoots and things like that? And maybe even go as far as to let them even champion your efforts. I see a lot of CEOs writing emails that are going out to the masses about what they're doing to deal with COVID-19, and I would just say, that message will land a lot stronger because all of us are getting that noise. Let your associates be the ones to share that information. One, there'll be a sense of pride that comes along with that for them. And two, people will actually listen. Again, people are the logos. So if I hear them say it, then I can, your people out there as a marketing message are more likely to listen and thus believe in your brand. The third thing is get involved in this creative relief industry. You are now in the relief industry, whether you want to or not. You are. You may not be participating, but you should be. So can you repurpose their purpose at home? Can you turn your associates in? Give them new things to do. Can they deliver masks and they be creating something for you? Can you turn your call centers into people who are talking to people and spreading hope on the phone and via support chats? Can your distribution centers be dropping in special notes of hope into online orders? There's just so many ways you could be reusing them. I encourage you to find what's the most brand-centric way for you to do that. Can you bring back the lost moments? As I talked about at the very beginning, all these moments, this dream disruption's been lost. Can you recreate that? Can you do an online prom for somebody? You bet you can. Can you just do something special for your consumers around the fact that they didn't get their graduation? Yes, you can. And even though the sports season's been canceled, what can you do there? I think your associates may be better equipped than maybe even corporate headquarters to do it, but you need to organize it and programmatic it, program it for yourself. And this last point here is open source creative. So we are in a world where there are no rules. I'll tell you that right now. There's this window where if you as a retailer want to always try something you never have before, you have permission to do it. No one's going to count it against you. You have the ability now to try things, and you will be forgiven if you fail. So you want to do create new product, you should try it. You want to create a new service, you should try it. This window of opportunity is open for you, and your associates can be the ones to help you take that tight brand control off and let them be the ones to actually lead you through this. All right. Last point to make, and one we can do is creating these people programs. So we do a ton of this, and to be successful at scale, you need to have the programs in place. So the first one is, can you be using this time to better train your associates? When people come back to retail, even though it's going to be online chat, if it's going to be in store or some other forum, we're not sure what's going to pop up yet. You know that having people there to talk them through it. I mean, I can't, it's just because it's proprietary information with our retailers, but the percent increase that we have when our people are trained on how to sell and talk people through like why this product is better than a competitor, the results are phenomenal. And this is the one place where you can actually track ROI versus like advertising. So can you be training people right now? It's got to be engaging training. It can't be old school training. It's got to be done through the way that youth culture would do it. So that looks totally different. But now's the time to develop and implement that. Second one is socialized field marketing. So field marketing is an old dated term. We sort of reinvent that term, but can now we be doing social sampling? Can we be using our people to go, if you're a wholesaler, still connect with wholesalers. If you're a retailer, connect with wholesalers. There's still associates who are working at those wholesalers that you want to build relationships with. Now build them through social channels. It's just like a real relationship, but your associates could still be forming those bonds that ultimately, we know it's going to have a return on investment. Spin up affiliate programs. Let everyone sell. You have associates who know how to sell. Let them still do that. Just let them do it from their living room, their bedroom. By the way, you can gamify this. When we gamify our affiliate programs, we see a huge spike in participation and results. Last one is manage micro influencers. Everyone wants to build micro influencer networks. It's near impossible because things change so quickly, and you never know who to trust. But you can use your associates who already know who are the movers and shakers in your local markets. You can use them to build this micro network out, and actually have them manage it, almost like they're your agents in the field. And if you don't have that system and process, we're always happy to do that for you as well. Okay, all of this that you're hearing this back end is part of a strategy deck that we have. I don't know if it's available just yet. We're gonna maybe post that here soon. But if you want access to it, I went through 3 of them. There's a lot more. It's a lot richer than what I was able to do here. But if you want to have that, just send me an email. There's my email there at the bottom. It's clint@archrival.com. You can also go, if you want to read more of the insights that we were talking with the Unknowable Now, go ahead and put that into the address bar. You will get the PDF version of that. Again, if you want to workshop this with some key stakeholders, if you want to just touch base with me, and I can give a version of this presentation or state of youth culture for your organization. Always happy to do that. Whew, that's our time. I hope you got something out of this. If you have follow-up questions, again, please email me. I'll be available to you. This is a crazy world we're in, and we're so thankful that you were willing to spend 30 minutes with us about this important topic.